You are listening to the Impact Brevard podcast, brought to you by East Coast Christian Center. Impact Brevard exists to support business leaders who want to serve Christ in their daily work life. We provide a setting for leaders to connect, discuss, and find solutions to the unique and often unaddressed issues that leaders face both at work and at home. The meeting is open to all business owners and leaders. Please enjoy today's episode, hosted by Jeannie Terry.
Well, welcome to Impact Brevard. My name is Jeannie Terry. Today is Thursday, May 6, 2021, and I get the privilege and honor of interviewing my friend and judge, Katie Jacobus. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
I'm excited when I interview anybody, but I am doubly excited today because not only are you my friend, you're also a woman, you're also a judge, and this is amazing to be part of this event. We're all in this room, we're all leaders, right? We're all in the business field, but as Christians, we're called to lead people to Jesus Christ. And I am just so honored that in your position, both on the bench and off the bench, you are an image bearer of God. And so I just thank you for what you're doing for our community and the leadership that you're providing.
Well, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to come today, and also thank you to everybody for having me. I've been looking forward to this for several weeks. I went to Impact Lunch maybe a year or two ago, and I just think this is an amazing thing that I think it's a great thing. So, thank you.
We think you're great.
Well, thanks.
So we're going to project as loud as we can for everybody today. And I would
That's her cue for me to speak up.
Yes. Like how I said we?
We
collectively. So I'd like you to start, if you could, by just briefly introducing yourself.
Okay. My name is Katie Jacobus. I am a Brevard County Court Judge here at Vieira. I'm on the criminal bench. I grew up in Brevard County. I actually grew up across the street from my husband, who is sitting right here. I graduated Satellite High School, and I went to University of South Florida, and then Florida Coastal for law school. I came back here to practice. I was at the state attorney's office for a little while, and then I went into private practice doing criminal defense, and then I ran for judge, and that is where I am at now. We have 2 kids. They go to public schools here, 10 and 8, and they keep us very busy. So that's us in a nutshell.
So tell us something about yourself that maybe nobody would know.
This was a hard question because I realized how unphenomenal my skill set is, given the fact that there's no real special skill that I have. I was telling Jeannie the one thing I thought of is that, I did a child modeling thing when I was like 6. And the only interesting thing about the story is that it was for a water park in Ohio. And we had to film it in Tampa on January 5th. When it was very cold and we had to go down these slides, and it was not fun. But I think one thing that people are surprised to hear about me is that I'm truly an introvert, and it's something that I've worked on as I've gotten older. It's gotten easier, but it definitely was something that I had to work on when I campaigned, because it's innate for me to be introverted, and I'm not a natural extrovert. So that's one thing that most people are surprised to hear about me.
Very nice. Is there something in your past that you could go back and fix or change?
I would say no. I would say there are things that I regret, but I truly believe that the path that I'm on is God's path. And if I were to go back and change anything, I'm truly the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. Spiritually, personally, professionally, and it took 45 years to get here, but I mean, there's a reason why I went on the path that I did, and I wouldn't want to change anything in order to affect that.
Can you tell me the most satisfying thing or accomplishment about your career, whether it's as a lawyer or a judge?
Honestly, the most satisfying thing that I think that I've accomplished in my career is becoming a judge. I was one of the lucky people that I knew I wanted to be a judge since I was 6 years old. We went to a family trip to Washington, D.C., and, I was raised in the South. I had never seen a fallen leaf in my life, and I was infatuated with all these dead leaves on the ground because we don't have them down here. And we would go to all these landmarks, and the one thing that caught my attention was the Supreme Court. And at the time, my mom kind of gave a elementary explanation as to what the Supreme Court was. And in a nutshell, my interpretation of it is that these people in these suits were going up and fighting for justice for people. And she said, the people that preside over it are called the judges. And from there, they really fostered my interest in the law and being a judge, and set up interviews with their friends who were lawyers and things like that. So I've kind of set my career path on the goal of becoming a judge. And it's not necessarily the job, the position itself that I find the greatest accomplishments. I think it's the years and the sacrifices and the work and everything that I did to get to where I am that I regard it as my biggest accomplishment thus far.
So you talk about obstacles and setbacks. Can you name maybe one thing that you've had to overcome to get where you are today?
I think the one thing that I have overcome is giving myself grace. And what I mean by that is that first, when you start out as a lawyer, you kind of walk into a courtroom and everybody expects you to know the answers. And if you're perfect, you're unteachable, but you kind of go in with this attitude that I know everything. And, when you feel like you have to project that in your head, you feel like you're at fault because you don't. And then further into my career, I have two small, well, not small anymore, they're 10 and they're 8. But finding the balance between being a mom and having a passion for a career. I get asked a lot from my kids that, why do you have to work? Why do you have to work? And, I explain, one, because I want to be able to afford college, and two, because I have a passion for this. I love the law. I love helping people. I love being part of the community. And so you kind of have that guilt, whether you're, stepping away from your career to handle your children, or you're stepping away from your children to handle your career. And I think that, it's taken me somewhat, but I'm finally giving myself that grace to be, what, I have to step off the bench to deal with my children. I have to, and I can't feel guilty about that. But it's finding that balance and giving myself grace and giving people in my life grace that are part of my life also. So I think it's been a struggle, but it's something that I think that I'm getting better at.
Can you give us an example of the grace you give yourself? Is it like 5 minutes alone with yourself? Is it going to do something, reading a book? Like, is it a hobby? What examples of grace maybe can people implement practically in their lives?
Definitely taking time for yourself. I think one of the biggest things for me is that I got off of social media. When you look at social media, that's everybody's best foot forward. So you're seeing their best example of what they are. So if you get on social media and you're seeing these extravagant play dates, or people, making these perfect clothes for their children, and I don't possess those skill sets whatsoever. So automatically I felt like I was a bad mom. And you see these people doing everything 100% because you're not seeing the whole picture. So, and it's a 2-second flip when you go through the social media. So I turned off all my social media, and that has really, really helped. And, but I think taking time for yourself and not feeling guilty about it, because one thing that I always thought that I was doing for myself was working out. Like, I love to run. I do. I love to work. I love running. But then I realized, I need to give myself a little bit more than just the act of exercising, because that's more of like, it's something that you got to fit into your schedule. I got to exercise. I got to, truly make time for something that you love to do and not feel guilty about it. I think that's good advice.
Yeah, that's good.
And having a very supportive husband that gives you that time.
There you go. That's the answer right there. Get a husband who supports you. That's a lie, he says. So can you share your salvation story or your testimony about accepting Jesus?
So I was not raised in the church. My parents were, and they kind of thought that they would give us the option to decide how we wanted to decide our faith. And so we were kind of the Christmas and Easter family.
CEO.
C&E, or what is it?
I think it's CEO, Christmas, yes. Easter only.
That's it, yeah. Yes. But I always knew that there was a presence, but I just couldn't identify it. I think that my journey began, my daughter was extremely premature, and after she was born, we were given a conversation by our doctor that the chances of her being, of surviving were very limited. And I think that's really when I started opening my heart to the idea of God. But if I could pinpoint my salvation story, is at the time, my husband and I both had certain career paths, but we didn't know how we were going to get there. We were just kind of all over the place. It was just, well, should we do this? Should we do that? I don't know. And you're kind of in this influx, and we had 2 small children, and, I had no idea what our future was going to hold. And I was filled with anxiety and trying to figure it out on my own. And I was running the bridge, and I got to the top of the bridge, and I just let it all out. I'm like, God, you got to tell me what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And literally I got to the top of the bridge and everything was clear. My anxiety was gone. I knew exactly what I needed to do. And I did not look any further than that. I just knew what the next step was. And that was, really when my salvation began. And it served me through my campaign, because during my campaign, it was, it's a lot of work. You're working 16-hour days. There's a lot of people's opinions that they have, especially because in this age of social media, you have to be on social media in order to campaign to reach the masses in Brevard County. And it was very difficult. And my husband would just always say, just stay in your own lane, just stay in your own lane. It's God's path. It's God's path. And to be able to put my blinders on and completely focus on that and see what my path is and not look too far ahead, but know that it was all going to work out, whether it was the experience of running a campaign and it was God's plan that I lose, but I was going to benefit from that. I was okay with that. Or if it was God's plan for me to be successful. So that is my salvation story.
Love it.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that with us. What are the challenges that you see for women in leadership?
I think this goes back to what I said before with the balance of it, because, as a woman in leadership, you're a leader of your family and you're a leader of your profession. And and I'm not saying that burden is any heavier on women than it is on men. I mean, men have the same experience, but, we tend to have to think of things with kids and play dates. And I was telling Jeannie that, there was a time a couple weeks ago, there was a camp I had to get my kids into. So I had to take a recess from the bench. I couldn't tell people in my quorum, I got to take a break because if I don't get this camp, I'm not going to have childcare for the summer. But I had to go. But it's a struggle with that. And trying to, I hate to keep being repetitive about this, but this is the one thing that comes to mind is, finding the balance of being an effective and adequate leader to the people that are looking at you professionally, and then being an adequate and effective parent to these children that are looking at you. And in my profession, it's two different, I have to go about it two very different ways. Because when I'm in the courtroom, I have to be one way, but when I'm at home, I can't treat my children as defendants that are coming in my courtroom as much as I would like to. I can't, but it's finding that it's leaving work at work and home at home, which is, sometimes it's difficult to do, but again, that's where grace comes in.
So where do you find your source to be different in the courtroom and different at home and be what you need as a leader and a mom and all the different hats you wear? Would you say it's spending intentional time with God? Like, what is your daily walk like to give yourself that grace? Mm-hmm. And because I think a lot of people could have been or might still be where you were at that top of the bridge, exhausted, anxiety ridden. Like, what do you do daily or regularly to have this new mindset, this mindset of, I'm okay, mm-hmm. and I'm peaceful, and this is how I am on the bench, and this is how I am at home, and I'm a singular person, and I don't change like who I am, the identity of who God made you to be. Mm-hmm. How do you walk that out practically and just get refreshed constantly?
First and foremost is prayer. Because there'll be times, because like I said, my husband's a judge as well, and he'll come home and we're just all over the place. This would happen in court, and that's what's going on with the kids. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And he'll say to me, go pray, or I'll say to him, go pray. And that's, at night, even, if I have anxiety, I pray about that, and I wake up and it's gone, amazingly enough. But also when I'm trying to figure out how am I supposed to do this with my child, or how am I going to work out tomorrow, or, I really messed up because I came home from work and I had a really, frustrating day at work and I yelled at my kid. What do I do? And so for me, it's prayer. And also it's not looking too far ahead, because I think that especially as a parent, I have goals that I have in my career that I really want to succeed farther than where I'm at now. I want to succeed. But also, I started to think about the impact on my children. Like, I'm a horrible mother because I wasn't at that thing at school, or, he's going to end up being like this, or she's going to end up being, arrested, or, you go down the rabbit hole with the future of your children. They're 8 now, but you go to sleep and in your head they're, 27, and, it is what it is. But I try not to, I plan ahead hopefully, as in prayer, but I don't think ahead, if that makes sense.
That's good.
So that's
really
what I
good.
do. I try to do that. I'm not saying that's how it works out every day, but
Well, that's where the grace comes in.
Yes.
So what's next? You just made you hinted that you have some more goals. What's
do.
next?
My ultimate goal is a federal bench. Federal law is very different than state law, and it's very challenging, and it's something that I'm a bit intimidated by, but I think that's what makes it even more exciting to be able to shoot for becoming a federal judge. That's where I really want to go. So,
Nice.
Yes.
Very good. Well, this has been an absolute privilege and honor. I've loved learning more about you and your story and your transparency, that you would be able to come to a meeting like this and an event like this and just share so candidly.
Thank you for listening to the Impact Brevard podcast. We meet the first Thursday of every month. Business owners and leaders from all walks of life in all industries are welcome and encouraged to attend. Please email impactbrevard@eccc.us with any questions you would like answered or topics covered in future meetings, and receive RSVPs to upcoming events. Together, we can make an impact in Brevard for Christ.